there's been a pile of questions actually in the last few weeks about UI, especially with controllers and stuff on how to control them. So I made a scene here and I got a canvas. It's really all I've added to it, like virtually nothing. So I want to control this canvas with essentially just like a controller or the keyboard or whatever, right? It really doesn't matter. I'll show you. So what I'm going to make is I'll make a few different things. So the first thing is going to be we're going to make a panel, something like, you know, maybe like that, and I'm going to make another. So I'll just duplicate that one so I can maintain the same color nice and easily. And something like that. Give that a text. Actually, I should probably go like this, scale that down so it's a lot sharper. And let's just align that right in the middle. I'll go right dark with this. Right, so we have essentially, this is our tab. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna reverse this because I want this guy to be the parent. Go like that. So the tab himself, we'll call him tab 1. And the text, we'll put him as a child as that. There we go. And now I can just duplicate him. Now I'll make 4 of them maybe. I'll go tab 2, tab 3, and tab 4. So tab 2. You know what? We should probably also anchor these. See how they're anchored in the middle? I'm going to anchor him up actually up in that corner. He doesn't have to move, but I want him anchored up in that corner. And then, oh, not that one. Line all these up, I suppose. Why is his text? Oh yeah, because that's, so be it. We don't want the text as a child of it. That would be silly. Tab 3, take the text out. So we'll take tab 3, bring him over here, move him back over there, tab 4, line them up. I'm sure if you have OCD, you'll spend some time lining those right up, right to the pixel, but you know, I'm not worried about it. You'll get the idea. All right, so we have 4 tabs. And the reason why I made these the parent is you'll all see why. So under them, we have a tab named tab. We have an object named tab. So if these objects, these things here contained, I don't know, we'll say like a grid layout group. It could really be anything. Right, and then in those, it had whatever, stuff. or text, or like literally could be like anything. And let's make a whole whack of those. All right, now let's take these, let's just deactivate all that stuff for a minute. Give up the spacing, bring that down from the top, left and right, and bring that down a bit. There we go. Something like that anyways. Just so you can see that there's different stuff in these things. So we'd have all of these tabs. And more importantly, if we don't have, we're not running a tab, I could deactivate whichever one, deactivate all the ones that aren't running and only have the one running we want. Right? To which, I mean, I guess they don't have to even be child of that. I mean, you could keep track of it another way, but whatever. And we need to that needs to be, so these tabs themselves, we want them to be selectable. So I'm going to give them the selectable component, right? Because now, maybe I should give those buttons instead. Selectable should work, right? So now we can see these little arrows, and those arrows is how we're going to navigate things. So we could put more selectable things down here, and we can come down into these things, but I'm not too worried about that right now. We have these things as selectable. So let's say, you know what, let's create another, let's make an empty. Let's call this our stuff, and take all of the tabs and stuff them onto there. Okay, so in this FSM, let's do a simple get key down. And if that's the case, we'll say the I key. I for inventory, or whatever you're making. So we get I. We're going to want to know if this thing is active or not active. To which that action might be on ecosystem, or it might be normal. So it is active and is not active. Right? The other thing you could do is do a toggle. Like toggle game objects is another option, I believe. A simpler option. Well, maybe not. Well, I mean, you can toggle a bool and use a bool. So if it is active, we are going to deactivate it. And if it is not active, then we are going to activate it. Pretty simple. I don't want the recursive on. And they can finish back there. So that would mean, very simply, and we should technically start with this thing off, I think, is if I hit a button, hit I, it opens. I hit I, it closes. Right? Just toggles back and forth. Just flickers back and forth. Okay, cool. We've gotten there. So the other thing is when this thing opens, let's call this a start. we'll just keep this one really simple. UI set selected. So it only takes a variable for some crazy reason. You can modify the action to change that if you want. Not a big deal. So we're going to say this guy here is going to be our default value. And if you want, you could use a variable, and whichever one it ends on, take that variable and make that the one that starts on. Right, so it's starting off now without touching the mouse. I'm not touching the mouse at all. If I hit I, it opens, and if I hit the arrows, if you look closely, those tabs are changing. That's with the arrows, or I could use AS, or I guess AD in my case. I can't use the S and W. There's no up and down, right? So that it is selected. That would also work if with a joystick. If you did left and right, with the left, with the D-pad or the left stick, it would also be doing that same function. And I haven't done anything really. I just told it, hey, if this thing's open, this guy's your default value. Okay, cool. So let's say we can do color tint, we can do animation. So here's kind of well, no, I was going to do animation because you can scale it up, make it all cool and big. But I'd have to do some alterations to the other ones. I don't really feel like doing that. But let's highlight them all, and let's, it's not going to let me do that. So if we have there's a pressed color, should be the selected color, right? Like if you went with a selected color, let's go green just to make it really bright. I don't even need to do it on all of them, I guess, but whatever. We will. Screw it. Right. So forgot to have it start close. That's okay. It'll still work, but see now it's green. Right. Now if I did an animation, you can have it so it scales up and changes colors and flips and dances and drinks beer for all I care. Right, and that's like we're in color tint. So you can do sprite swap and change its sprite, do an animation, and then, like I said, scale it up and do whatever. So anyways, so that's cool. But now one of the things that we want is when I have one selected, I want to be able to hit enter. And actually, you know what? I think I will separate these actually. Let's call these windows. Let's take these tabs out. Oh yeah, he's got all the images, which is fine. He can keep those. Right, so if this is, say, I don't know, window 1, only apparently I forgot the last letter. I don't know if I should maintain that, but whatever. Window 3 and window 4. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to have, let's set it, if we run it on this one. Now let's run it on this one. So this guy just has the is active. So let's call this open. Open and close. And let's make another one. And he's gonna say we need a array. the current selected tab, and he is going to be a type game object, and we have 4 tabs, which is tab 1, tab 2, tab 3, and of course tab 4. So we're gonna have not an array, just a game object. And tab 1 is going to be our default. We can even call them default. So we need 2 colors. We have the in use and not use color, I suppose. So in use, let's take this color. Use color picker. For not used, let's take this color, but then darken it. I suppose I could have just darkened it. Don't want to darken it too much. That might have been too much. Okay, so now we have this weird thing, and you're probably wondering, like, what the hell is going on? So we're going to have UI selected. So this is, we don't want to set the selected. We want to get the selected, right? And we're going to get the selected. We might as well call them the default. And on changed, we have, I'll just call it changed. Something's changed. So that our default value is tab 1. That's fine. Now he should change right away, essentially. So what this means is if that needs to be every frame. So if we select a different thing, then we need to do stuff like this will fire because we've selected something else. It's changed. So if it's changed, what do we need to do? Array get next. Let's go through our current select tab and do a loop. And we'll do a done. We'll call this one array focus. So loop and done. So during the loop, let's color UI set graphic color of the whatever we're looking at in the array to not use. And when we're done, let's take this default value and use in use. Now the other thing we're going to want to do, so this is adjusting these colors, is array contains, is we want to turn around and say, okay, Mr. Array, you contain the default somewhere and you're at some index. And I guess we don't need to finish that. So once we get that index, we want to turn around and we also want to make another array which is a game object array, which has also got 4, but these are the windows, right? We have window 1, window 2, window 3 and window 4. So we have two arrays, right? One for the tabs, one for the windows, and they correspond with each other. So what do we want to do? We want to array get from the windows the index from our tabs, current window, and activate solo, which is a relatively newer action, and I like it. The current window, and then go back up and wait for another thing to happen. So now we developed a little bit of a system where if we hit a button, a window pops up. All the tabs are darkened, and plus we have one green one, and we can see a stuff in the first window. If I hit over, or actually I'll use D, we have a new tab. The other ones have now all darkened. Our current one is green, and we're looking at a different window. I can go back and forth. And you could add sound effects to this if you wanted to too. But like if you look at our windows, they are, oh, see now that I've used the mouse, I've unselected something. I'd have to reselect something and then I can use those again. So if you use the mouse, it will unselect things and that'll screw things up. But if you're doing it all with console or controller, you shouldn't be using the mouse. You shouldn't be using the mouse with it at all. You can. Obviously there's things you can do with that too. You could, it gets a little more complex. But anyways, so there is that. Now from there, we could add more to that, right? Like we could add I don't know, more stuff, right? Like let's go into tab 2, which will actually be window 2, and let's add a button. So this is, I'll show you this. I'm just going to pull them out over here. I'm going to go from color tint to animation, and I'm going to say auto generate. Sure, column button, replace whatever the hell we got there. Right? So if I now go animation, I can see the button there, and we can say, okay, on selected, hit record. Let's scrub over a bit, and I am going to go, you can go a little bigger, and we're going to take your text, and your text can go even more bigger, and your text can go green. Right now, back on this side, your text should be gray. Perfect. That's it. That's all I'm going to do. So let's bring him back over here. So, oh, I left that whole freaking thing open again. All right, let's deactivate him. And now I can just hit I. So now we have, as you see, he pops up. And if I hit down or S, I can go to him. Oh. See, that's kind of, so there is one thing we need to fix there. Is these have the word tab. That's relatively unique. We could also use tags or something. So let's we're going to need to put some sort of fix in here. So these tabs, let's do it by tag. Let's call them tab. And let's actually give those the proper tag. And let's say tag compare if the default is tab. If that's true, continue. And if not, skip. So more or less what we're saying is if you're a tab, continue on. If you're not a tab, ignore this command, essentially. So, forgot to close the whole thing again. Damn it. Right, so I go over here and everything's working, but now if I go down, oh, I have it on loop. Well, that was stupid of me. But you see how this thing stayed highlighted. It's not green because green's coming over here. But we didn't close windows, and didn't change anything because this isn't tagged tab like these ones are. So first, let's fix that animation. And this is all built automatically when you hit the that auto generate, right? When it's there. It's obviously not there now because I've already auto generated it, but it's it'll build the animator for you and those states. So like the animations are blank. You have to do the animations, but it sets it all up. It sets up the transitions. It sets all that up for you. So there we have. So now I come down. He's like, whoa, look at that. Right, I said I can go back up, go over here. And let's say if I go up and going up to 3, which is kind of weird. You think I'd go back up to 2. You can adjust those. That's the whole idea of, I'll show you. Let's close these down for a minute. So if I click on the button where it has a selectable, see these navigations? You see all these fancy arrows? So everything comes down to it. And it's set to automatic. So we can say, you know what? No, we want, you can visualize on and off. Let's say none. So we can say on up. Where do we want to go? We want to go to tab 2. We don't want to go to tab 3. We want to go to tab 2, right? And then on down or whatever, you can set things up and then have the other ones run automatic. So there, it's essentially now he'll just go up and down to the tab 2 instead of going over to the closest one. And that's all built in, right? So that's all controller friendly or keyboard friendly, right? Like I'm not even using the mouse right now. The mouse is sitting still. This is all, I'm doing this on the keyboard. When I come down, if I go back up, I go to 2. Come down, go back up, I go to 2. And if I hit left and right, nothing happens. Because that's the way we set up the navigation. I go up here and I can go left and right. And that's how you can run the UI with a controller or just a keyboard or whatever the case may be. And all it is setting this selected. Now you might have special areas in there where maybe on this window you want certain spots selected. Well, you could have these ones with their own little version of this, saying, okay, when this guy starts, he sets the selected default tab. But if he starts, maybe on the next frame, he sets something in here as the default, and that's where you start. And then this guy can set this guy as the default, and you could do that and have this thing bounce all over and then control it from there. But that's how we run UI without a mouse, right? It's all based on those. And if you look into the input system, where's the input system? Input manager. This is the old input system, obviously. Say submit. Well, that's what this is, the submit button. So we get the return, so enter on the keyboard, joystick button 0, right? Or left clicking with the mouse does it, obviously. But that's what all that is. That's how these communications work. That's what the event system does, right? So the horizontal is kind of more of a built-in Unity thing. It's it can come from joystick axes, and the ASED should be in here, but they're not for whatever reason. There they are. I don't know why I have two of them. That's weird. But yeah, so it has left, right, A and AD. Get access from all joysticks. Horizontal and vertical, right? So horizontal and vertical, it gets it from everything. Doesn't matter if it's a joystick. Doesn't matter if it's a keyboard. These ones, I don't know what these ones are here for. That's weird. This came in from some other system.